I want to talk a little bit about my own personal story and what brought me to this journey and what keeps me going. So that's what we're going to talk about. My life started really when I immigrated from India to the United States. This was back in 1995, so little over 30 years have passed. And something that really stuck with me is the initial years of how I immigrated and where I've come to from from that space of immigration. So I'm going to start by sharing a little bit of a story around what got me started, and then I'm going to go into a topic that's really near and dear my heart, which is how founders approach businesses that they've started and how this specific story can help you to realize an easier way to do business in your space. In 1995, I was earning $525 a month through my assistantship. I just moved from India to Iowa City, Iowa. And this is where I was going to go to school. So my assistantship started in that city in University of Iowa. And I was working about 60 hours a week. It was a lot of hours. And I didn't have a car. I didn't have a credit card. I didn't have any savings to my name. So I literally had $0 in my bank account when I got there. Tuition was about $300 a month. Books and supplies were about 50. So you can add this up. So that's 350. Housing and utilities were about 125. So we're at 475, right? And then groceries were about 75. So that's 550. But I was only making 525. So this obviously doesn't line up. So what I did was I took a second position, which is a grading position that paid me another $100 a month. So I didn't have a lot of comfort and luxury. I didn't have a lot of slack, but I could manage. But then what I didn't expect to happen happened. Assistantship, my primary source, which I was making $525 out of, ended suddenly. It got stopped suddenly. Okay. So at the time, I wasn't allowed to work off campus because I was a foreign student. So I wasn't allowed to work off campus. I wasn't allowed to do anything outside of campus. So I looked at where the choice was. I spoke to my foreign student advisor, and the only choice was for me to take an out of state internship. So I left Iowa City and went to Pennsylvania to start that internship. That internship gave me more stability and income for the next 2 years. It didn't pay a great deal, but it gave me more stability and income. But the most important thing it gave me was real world experience while I was still in school. Now, I already had a master's degree when I was trying to do my second master's in the University of Iowa. And my interest was technology, so I wanted to be in that space. But it gave me the real world experience when I was working there. I had that real world experience of doing an actual project, holding a program and working through that. This was back in the time it was basically like in the defense industry. So it was a secret government program, which I wasn't allowed in on the secrets because I was a foreign student, but I was given enough information that would allow me to do my job. It was essentially pulling together the technology pieces that specific high secret project needed for it to be successful, not the back end technology, the front end technology, like the website and all that good stuff. So that's what I did. And that gave me the income for the next 2 years and gave me that experience. But it also got me thinking, what if I can build a company that provides this as a service to other companies? So at the time, I literally remember sitting at my desk and thinking that. So anyway, leave all of that. I finished the internship. That same company offered me a full-time position. It was at $22,000 annual salary. It's almost ridiculous, like, because you can't do anything. Even back then, that was tight. But for me, it was the world opening up with that salary. So I got myself a car. I didn't even have a car. And I lived in a decent rental house. And I started to work within this company, gained a reputation there. Then I moved to California because that was always in the plans. I wanted to live in California for a very long time. So I moved to California, saved up enough, and I went back to school, finished my master's degree. And after finishing my master's degree, I took a full-time position in the dot-com industry. That was my second full-time position. Those were like only the basic full-time positions that I've ever held in my life. After that, I actually started my consulting business. But by then, I'd built a reputation for delivering outcomes to a number of smaller companies, like three to smaller companies. I had a solid reputation for really delivering the outcomes. That's what helped me to make the connections and gain the reputation that I knew what I was doing. So that led to Fortune 500 companies actually hiring me into consulting positions to help them solve specific problems inside Fortune 500 organizations. I was involved in technology side in the beginning, but soon my role expanded to operations, tech operations, advising on operational processes, and I gained a bigger reputation in that industry. So steadily through the years, from that 22,000, my pay rate increased, my value increased. And I remember, I built a multi-seven-figure consulting business in Fortune 500, advising Fortune 500 companies. So my point is, a lot of people listen to this and they'll tell me, oh, you are really brave and things like that. It has nothing to do with any of that. It had to do with seeing the simplicity of the situation and taking that step that I needed to take in the moment to get myself to that next level. So the simplicity was I needed the income. So I went to the option that gave me the stability and income I needed. I didn't overthink it. Okay. Now, a lot of you can probably relate to something like this. Maybe not to being an immigrant, but in a different country, but you can relate to starting at that level, right? You can relate to going into start your business even. And at the time you started the business, you probably didn't have and know everything to start it. But you planted that seed that I want to start a business. I don't know if you were in corporate or anything like that, but it started at some point. That seed got planted and you did the work to start your company. Okay. So once that seed is planted, that seed is still there. But if you stand on top of the seed and don't let the sun penetrate the ground and for the water to actually have a time, have the space to go in and nourish the soil, it's not going to grow. The seed is not going to come out. So that's what it is. Like when the seed is planted, you step out of the way of the seed. You nurture it. You water on it. You till the soil. You move the soil. You let the sunshine come in. But if you are sitting in an identity of the person who started the business that got to six figures, then the sunshine hasn't come in yet. You're still standing on top of your six-figure business and not allowing it to come to seven figures. So the way is to actually realize that you've already done the work. The next step is for you to see where in yourself you're not letting yourself step away. For most of my clients, that is not raising the prices when they're supposed to raise the prices. Still doing work that's not truly aligned to who they've become. Holding on to beliefs like, I'm not good enough to raise the prices yet. But this is all part of the identity and daily structure you're keeping to protect what you've built. And that same protection of what you've built is what is going to stop you from getting to that next level. So the work is not about becoming somebody new. You're actually removing all the BS layers that you've built around what you've already created in your business. That is the work. It's removing all those extra layers and getting down to a simplicity, a model that'll work for you based on where you are right now. That is the beauty of your new business. The seven-figure businesses don't require complicated setups. They really don't. I can tell you this with certainty because I've done it in my Fortune 500. I'm doing it now. So there's a beauty to that simplicity. That simplicity reflects in the way you do your work because it takes away the time that you spend on things like managing your complicated funnels and all this crazy stuff, right? And doing the work that gives your clients the transformation they're looking for, the results and outcomes they're looking for. And that's when it changes. When the focus changes, the business changes. When it changes, the revenue changes. And most of the time, I found that you already have the core strategies. You're just layering more stuff that you don't need to layer. So in my world, when I've advised Fortune 500 companies, we've always taken it down to simplicity. I was always rewarded for my simplicity. I was always honored for my simplicity. I was always valued for my simplicity. This is what I brought to the world of executives. They hired me over and over again. In fact, just 5 days back, I had a call from an executive I used to work with. Will you come back and consult for us? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't have the time right now. I wouldn't be doing you justice if I did that. I really, what I do right now, I work, completely exclusively with business owners and founders. And every so often I'll go back to a company just because I'm curious where they're at or something like that. But for the most part, this is where I put my heart and soul. This is where I live now. And it's what I live and breathe. That's where you want to be because when you're living and breathing the fabric of your business, the core of your business, you don't need complexity to scale it. On July 15th, I am hosting an intimate workshop for just 8 business owners to come into. The workshop is about really looking at what they want to create in their business and where they're feeling stopped at the moment. We're going to strip away all the noise that's adding complexity to the business. We're going to make it simple. We're not going to focus on tactics. We're going to focus on the identity shift. Because I can tell you 100 tactics a day, but you know what will happen is it's going to become complicated in your business. I'll tell you, it's really interesting because I just had my client call before this Facebook Live today. And I was working, this is a new client that I've worked with, that I'm working with. And she said, I can't believe that in 8 minutes, you gave me the core money problem that I have, something that I have worked on for decades. You know why? Because I don't overcomplicate it. That's why I can do that. And that is the same level of skill and craft I'm going to bring to this workshop. It's called Alive. Why? Because I want you to feel alive when you are in that workshop. I want you to feel the aliveness of your work. And so we're going to bring that into focus on July 15th. It's intimate, like I said. I have 8 spots that I'm opening up. It's my gift. So I'm going to invite you to join and bring yourself completely to that workshop. Okay. So I'm going to leave it at that for this Facebook Live. If you have any questions come up, please drop me a comment or a DM, and I will be more than happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you for joining, and I'll catch you real soon in the next Facebook Live.